Jolo. May I call on Justice Jolo to proceed with his... sorry, you still have questions? Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Justice Japs.
Thank you, Chief. May I ask the counsels for the respondents to answer my questions? Attorney Solomon Hermosura, will you please come forward? Either of you may answer the questions. The contentious provision in this case is Section 11 of Republic Act 11223, that's the Universal Health Care Act, which says that, open quote, PhilHealth shall set aside a portion of its accumulated revenues not needed to meet the cost of the current year's expenditures as reserve funds. Close quote. It is evident that the law uses technical terms. We ought to clarify the situation or what is happening. We must demystify these technical terms for the court's clarity and understanding. To simplify the discussion, I have prepared a PowerPoint presentation. First, let's try to understand the meaning of accumulated revenues. Last week, February 25, COA Commissioner Douglas Malilin espoused the view that accumulated revenues refers to premium contributions and government subsidies less normal operating and administrative expenditures and claims benefits. Do you agree with that definition?
Your Honor, I believe that is essentially correct, but if I may add, to include also income from investments.
Income from
Investments. Yes, Your Honor.
Let's be basic. If you consult the Black's Law Dictionary, this is what it says. It refers to total income that has been collected over a certain period. That is how the Black's Law Dictionary defines accumulated revenues, given that Republic Act 11223 does not define the term. Neither can you find a definition in Section 4 of the Implementing Rules and Regulations of Act 11223. So with that revised definition, you agree with that definition. Now, having clarified the meaning of accumulated revenues, by the way, those who are listening as law students, revenue is to the government, income is to the taxpayer. That's a basic distinction of corporation. Revenue, for the benefit of those who are taking up taxation, may include not only taxes, but other sources of governmental income that may include fines, the enforcement of laws, fines, penalties, that may form part of revenues. Now, having clarified the meaning of accumulated revenues, let's now examine what the law says. Not needed to meet the cost of current year's expenditures. So, from this provision, we really have to deduct that cost of current year's expenditures. My question is this cost of current year's expenditures in light of no clear definition of the term in Republic Act 12223, the same as that cost of normal and administrative expenditures in the previous slide?
Your Honor, my understanding about current expenditures are the current, present, this year's operating expenditures of PhilHealth. So that includes not only the administrative cost of running PhilHealth, but also, and more importantly, the claims that it has to pay, the benefit packages that it has to promote. That is my understanding, Your Honor, of current or present expenditures. And if I may add, while we talk about current expenditures, we should also take note that currently there will also be income flowing in at the same time that current expenditures are being made.
Is it accurate to say that the difference of accumulated revenues and the cost of current year's expenditures is the reserve fund? Is that an accurate statement?
Well, let's say for this year, Your Honor.
No, just answer that. Yes or no?
The reserve fund is taken from the accumulated revenues over
So
the past years. Your
it's
Honor.
not accurate because, as the law says, portion.
Yes, a
So
portion.
that reserve fund is just a portion of the difference between accumulated revenues and cost of current year's expenditures. Now, since the reserve funds is just a portion, let's level that as X. So how do you now term that X? Can you think of a term that will describe the difference between accumulated revenues and cost of current year's expenditures, given that reserve funds is just a portion of that? Can you think of a term, in as much as the law does not mention any term about such difference, can you think of a technical term that will represent the difference between accumulated revenues and cost of current year's expenditures?
No, actually the current year's expenditures are matched against the current year's revenue, Your Honor.
Can
And
we
then-
use this word excess? Excess. In the absence of a clear-cut term, excess of accumulated revenues and cost of current year's expenditures, from that excess, a portion forms part of the reserve fund.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Actually, the COA also uses the term surplus, Your Honor.
Okay. Last week, I heard the word gap. There is a gap. Now you are espousing a theory that should be termed as surplus. The literal term is excess. Is the word surplus appropriate to describe such excess? What do you mean by surplus?
Well, I think maybe excess is not being used because when you say excess, it's like you have money that you should have that you don't need. But this is money that is actually
Okay.
also put into use, Your Honor.
Let's consult Black's Law Dictionary and tell us if the definition fits your theory. The Black's Law Dictionary says surplus is the remainder of a fund or a thing that has been set aside for a specific purpose. Do you think that will fit that
I am
appropriate term?
I am looking at actually at Office Order number 0145 series of 2012 of the PhilHealth, Your Honor, and actually it defines surplus as a situation when the current year revenue exceeds the current year expenditures.
Okay, in any case, since the law provides no clear term that will describe that excess or surplus, as the case may be, so when it says portion, so there is that other portion. Do you agree?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so we can label that as Y. Now, can you think of a technical term that will describe that other portion? So, literally, it's other portion because
Yeah.
the portion reserve fund is another one. So let's label it as Y. We term it as other portion.
Actually, we can replace that diagram with, like I say, Your Honors, a circle, like a pie. So the pie represents the total accumulated revenues. That total accumulated revenues, you can slice it into parts. One part is called the reserve fund. So in this case, the total pie is 500 billion. And then you take a slice of that total pie, make it into the reserve fund. That's the 280. So therefore, and then the remainder of this pie, that's the fund balance, actually.
Fund balance.
Yes.
So you mean that Y can also be considered as fund balance? Why?
Yes, that's correct, Your Honor. Because, one way to look at this, Your Honor, is because as I mentioned, there is this office order of the PhilHealth that set the guidelines on how they apply this reserve fund.
Yes, but I think, with all humility, this is the simplest way to interpret the provision. When it says portion, so reserve fund is just a portion, so there must be other portion.
That's correct. Yeah.
So
why?
can we consider that as savings, as spouse? I could vividly recall by the Solicitor General, it's not a special fund, this may come from savings.
Your Honor, savings has acquired a definite technical meaning in the GAA and also in jurisprudence. So savings actually refer to those amounts which form part of appropriations, but which have now been saved, so to speak, because of efficiency in operations or because the project or the program has been completed or because the program or the project has been abandoned. So in that case, Your Honor, that part that had been saved under the law may be transferred to other items or may be used to augment other items of appropriations by certain well-defined officials of the government, namely the President, the Chief Justice, the Senate President, the Speaker of the House, and the heads of the various constitutional commissions.
You must be referring to Section 77 of 2024 General Appropriation Act.
I think so.
There are, you mentioned, two sources of savings. These are portions or balances of released appropriations that have not been obligated, free from encumbrance, arising from those two that you have just mentioned. You mentioned about completion or final continuance or abandonment of a program, activity, or project for which appropriation is released. You mentioned about efficiency. That's implementation of measures resulting in the improved systems. And now what about unpaid compensation and other related costs due to vacant positions and leave of absences without pay? Can you not consider that as also a possible source of savings?
From a general or generic point of view, Your Honor, if those plantilla items have not been filled up, then in a general sense, this could be considered likewise as savings.
Does the law, I referred to Section 77 of 2024 GAA, make an exclusive enumeration regarding sources of savings? It mention only two, but here you are espousing the theory that that may also be a possible source of savings.
Yes, Your Honor. I think, I'm not too sure though, but the word among others might have been used in Section 77.
I ask that because that is provided for in GAA 2014, Section 59. It is not mentioned in Section 77 of 2024 GAA. So that crops up the question whether it still forms part of the savings, but the law does not say only any of the. In any case, so may I now ask the petitioners in charge of special funds? I will back to it later on. In charge of, I understand that you divided the issues among the council. So, yeah, thank you.
With the permission of the Honorable Chief Justice.
Well, given this PowerPoint presentation, is it not possible that the source for and program appropriations may come from Y, which we term it as other portion? What do you think? Can that be the possible source of unprogrammed appropriations?
Your Honor, for me, what is clear is that per admission by the government, as labeled in the GAA, the one that was taken away, the 60 billion so far, came from sin taxes, Your Honor, because the GAA says this is the appropriation for sin taxes.
Yes, answer yes or no, or no.
No, Your Honor.
the reserve fund is isolated. It must remain untouched. That's why there is a barrier there,
Yes, Your Honor.
which implies that reserve fund must be untouched,
Yes, Your Honor.
isolated from the other portion.
Yes, Your
Now,
Honor.
the respondents, please, Solicitor General, is that the one that the government has been doing, that it may source such and program appropriations from the other portion,
Exactly, Your Honor.
not from the reserve fund?
No, because precisely the DOF circular clearly stated that the GOCCs shall review and reduce to a reasonable level their reserve funds, taking into account their historical expenditures for the previous years. And the remainder, meaning outside the reduced or reasonably reduced reserve fund, will be the base for the computation of what should be remitted back to the Treasury. And in that particular example, Your Honor, your Y factor, which refers to the accumulated revenues over the past years, in the case of the PDIC, which is the other GOCC that remitted funds to the National Treasury, these are the unrestricted funds. These are the retained earnings of PDIC, precisely your Y factor. And that was the amount that was determined to be returned to the National Treasury.
Any refutation?
Yes, Your Honor. In the Bureau of Treasury's presentation for the House of Representatives on May 8, 2024, they determined the fund balance as from 2021 to 23 as premium for indirect contributors minus benefit claims. So that's for 2023, 38.8, and then for 22, 24, 2021, 27.1, for a total of 89.9 billion.
We have repeatedly mentioned fund balance. Where in that presentation is the source of the so-called fund balance?
Where in the presentation? That's actually my quandary, Your Honor, because they, based on the presentations, they just got it. They just computed it based on their subsidy minus the benefit claims from indirect contributors. That's it. That's how they determine
Do
it.
you espouse the theory that it may come from the reserve fund
Yes, Your Honor.
to refute what Solicitor Generals just espoused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Yeah.